Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The click was sharp, loud, and echoed like a gunshot in the silence of the penthouse, sending a jolt of electricity straight up my spine that nearly made my knees buckle. I gripped the edge of the marble kitchen counter until my knuckles turned white, biting my tongue so hard I tasted copper, forcing myself to breathe through the sudden, blinding haze of pleasure that assaulted my senses. Across the open-concept living space, oblivious to the havoc he was wreaking, sat Kalen Thorne, the heir to the Thorne Empire, a prodigy in cybersecurity, my roommate, and the man who currently held my life in his unsuspecting hand. He stared intently at his dual monitors, his brow furrowed in that glacial, terrifying concentration that made half the city tremble, and adjusted his grip on the sleek, black computer mouse. He moved his index finger. He clicked again. Click. The sensation was instantaneous, a ruthless vibration that tore a silent gasp from my throat. My legs trembled. I had to leave. I had to get the device off my body. I had to confess. But I was frozen, trapped in the orbit of his gravity, watching the most dangerous man I knew unwittingly play my body like a fiddle. Chapter 1. The switch to understand how I, Julian Vane, a rational, albeit socially anxious architectural designer, ended up in this predicament. You have to understand the nature of my obsession with Kalen Thorne. We were friends by proximity, roommates by necessity of a twisted inheritance clause that required him to live with the civilian to access his trust fund. I was the civilian. He was the royalty. For 2 years, I had watched him from the periphery. Kalen was beautiful in the way a storm front is beautiful, dark, imposing, and capable of ruin. He was aloof to the point of cruelty, speaking only when necessary, his silver-gray eyes dissecting people like bugs under a microscope. And I, like a moth with a death wish, had fallen in love with the flame. The mouse was supposed to be my secret. It was a piece of high-end teledildonic tech, a customized peripheral I had ordered from an underground boutique in Tokyo. The concept was simple, a gaming mouse synced to a discreet, remote-controlled wearable. It was meant for lonely nights, a way to simulate intimacy through the frantic pace of my own work. I had bought 2 identical models, the Viper X. One was the innocent, high-performance hardware for actual work. The other was the modified transmitter. This morning, chaos had erupted. Kalen's proprietary mouse had shattered against the wall after a failed compile of his code, a rare display of temper. He needed a replacement immediately to finish an encryption key for a government contract due at midnight. Julian, he had barked, standing in my doorway, shirt unbuttoned at the collar, radiating stress. Do you have a spare? Mine is dead. I was half asleep, groggy from a late night of rendering. Top shelf, I'd mumbled, burying my face in the pillow. Brand new Viper X. Take it. It wasn't until 3 hours later, when I showered and dressed, slipping on the discreet wearable for a test run later that evening, that I realized the box on the top shelf was still sealed. The innocent mouse was still there, which meant Kalen had taken the transmitter. And now, we were in the living room. The storm outside battered the floor-to-ceiling windows, mirroring the turbulence inside my body. Kalen was working furiously. His coding style was aggressive. He didn't just click, he attacked the interface. Double clicks, drag and drops, rapid-fire scrolling, asterisk click, click click, asterisk. I let out a ragged breath, pretending to make coffee. The wearable, snug against my most sensitive anatomy, buzzed in perfect synchronization with his index finger. A single click was a low thrum. A double click was a sharp, staggering pulse. Is the coffee machine broken? Kalen's voice cut through the haze. He didn't look up, his eyes scanning lines of code. No. I choked out, my voice sounding foreign thin. Just waiting for it to brew. You're breathing loud, he stated flatly. Click. My hips jerked involuntarily, hitting the counter. Headache, I lied quickly. Migraine. Kalen paused. For a terrifying second, his hand hovered over the mouse without moving. The cessation of stimulation was almost worse than the act itself. It left me aching, empty, craving the next hit. He turned his chair slightly, those piercing gray eyes locking onto me. You look flushed, he observed, his tone clinical. You're sweating. It's humid. I deflected, turning my back to him to hide the trembling of my hands. Just focus on your code, Kalen. Doesn't the deadline expire in an hour? 45 minutes, he corrected. He turned back to the screen. He began a sequence of rapid executions. It must have been a debugging phase. He clicked the mouse repeatedly, a staccato rhythm of 5, 6, 7 times in a row. Asterisk buzz. Buzz. Buzz 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 buzz. Asterisk my vision blurred. I gripped the granite so hard I thought it might crack. I bit down on my lip until blood welled. It was torture. It was ecstasy. It was the most intimate I had ever been with him. And he didn't even know he was touching me. The sheer psychological weight of it, that the aloof, untouchable Kalen Thorne was controlling my pleasure with the callous indifference of work, was overloading my brain. I should have walked away. I should have gone to my room, taken the device off, and hidden under my covers. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed by the depraved thrill of it. Damn it, Kalen hissed. The sensitivity on this thing is erratic. My heart stopped. What? The mouse, he muttered, lifting it and inspecting the sensor. It has a haptic feedback delay. It feels heavy. It's a prototype. I stammered, panic rising in my throat. Maybe adjust the DPI. He hummed, unconvinced, and set it back down. He grabbed the mouse firmly, his large hand engulfing the device. The mere sight of his long fingers wrapping around the black plastic sent a phantom sensation through me. I'll manage, he said. But after this, you're buying me a Logitech. He resumed work. The deadline was looming. The intensity of his work increased. Chapter 2. The glitch. 20 minutes passed. I was a wreck. I had moved to the sofa, pretending to read a magazine, but I hadn't turned a page. I was hyper-aware of every twitch of his finger. Then, the unthinkable happened. Kalen wasn't just coding anymore. He was stress-testing the encryption. This involved a graphical interface that required rapid, continuous clicking. He began to click. And he didn't stop. The device against me roared to life, a continuous, unrelenting wave of vibration that shattered my composure. I gasped loudly, dropping the magazine. My back arched off the sofa, my toes curling inside my shoes. It was too much. It was overstimulation, edging into pain, bordering on a public unraveling. Juliet. The clicking stopped. I slumped back against the cushions, chest heaving, sweat dripping down my temples. I couldn't focus my eyes. The silence in the room was deafening. Julian. Kalen's voice was closer now. I cracked my eyes open. He had swiveled his chair fully around. He wasn't looking at his screen. He was looking at me. His expression had shifted from annoyance to a sharp, predatory curiosity. He was intelligent, scary intelligent. He noticed patterns where others saw chaos. You're not sick, he said softly. It wasn't a question. I need to go lie down, I whispered, trying to stand up. My legs felt like jelly. I stumbled, and Kalen was there in an instant, catching me by the arm. His grip was iron. He steadied me, but he didn't let go. He looked at me, really looked at me, analyzing the dilated pupils, the flush on my neck, the shallow breathing. Then, his gaze drifted to the table where his computer sat. Then back to me. He was putting it together. The prototype mouse. My reaction to his work rate. The synchronization of my gasps with his clicks. Sit down, he commanded. Kalen, I sit. I collapsed back onto the sofa. Kalen didn't return to his chair. He walked over to the desk, unplugged the mouse, and brought it with him. He stood over me, the wireless mouse resting in his palm like a weapon. This isn't a normal mouse, is it, Julian? His voice was low, devoid of anger, filled instead with a dark, terrifying intrigue. I can explain, I pleaded, my voice cracking. I bought the wrong one. I mixed up the boxes. It wasn't meant for you. Clearly, he drawled. He looked at the device, then at my lap. It's synced. Bluetooth? Or a proprietary frequency? I couldn't speak. The humiliation was total. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. Kalen knelt before me. It was a jarring change in dynamic. He was always the one looking down from above, but now, on his knees between my spread legs, he looked like a dark priest at an altar. But the power was still entirely his. To what? He asked. I looked away. Julian. His voice dropped an octave, vibrating in his chest. To what is this mouse connected? A wearable. I whispered, shame burning my face. Where? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Kalen reached out and placed his hand on my knee. He raised the mouse in his other hand. He clicked. Buzz. My hips bucked involuntarily against the cushion. A strangled noise escaped my throat. Kalen's eyes darkened. The iris seemed to swallow the pupil. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face, a distinctive expression I had never seen on him before. It wasn't the smile of a roommate. It was the smile of a man who had just discovered a hidden door in his own house. Interesting, he murmured. So all morning, while I was stressing over encryption protocols, I was doing this to you. He clicked again. Longer this time. Buzz. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping his shoulder for stability. Kalen, stop. Please. Why? He leaned in, his breath ghosting against my ear. You seem to be enjoying my work ethic. It was an accident, I sobbed dryly. Was it? He pulled back, studying my face. You had 3 hours to tell me. You watched me working. You watched me holding this. And you said nothing. He wasn't wrong. I had let it happen. Because I wanted it. Because I wanted him. I couldn't move, I admitted. Kalen hummed. The deadline is in 20 minutes, Julian. I have a final sequence to run. It's very click-intensive. He stood up, towering over me. He didn't hand the mouse back. He didn't turn it off. He walked back to his desk and sat down. Kalen, I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of terror and anticipation. He looked over his shoulder. The aloof mask was gone, replaced by dominant arrogance. Don't go anywhere. I need to finish my work. And you? He paused, his eyes raking over my trembling form. You need to be a good roommate and support me. Chapter 3. The compilation. The next 15 minutes were a blur of sensory overload. Kalen didn't just work, he played. He knew exactly what he was doing now. He wasn't clicking for code. He was clicking for reaction. He would type with one hand and rhythmically tap the mouse button with the other, watching me from the reflection of the darkened window. He experimented. Rapid clicks followed by long pauses. Holding the button down to drag files, creating a long, sustaining vibration that made me curl into a ball on the sofa, biting a throw pillow to stifle my screams. He was cruel. He was methodical. He was perfect. Almost done, he called out, his voice calm amidst my chaos. Just need to compile the final build. Please, I whimpered. Kalen, it's too much. Endure it, he commanded. If the build fails, I have to start over. Do you want me to start over, Julian? No, I gasped. Then be quiet. Let me focus. He hit the final button. The compile command. In this specific software, the compile process didn't require clicking. It was a progress bar. The vibration stopped. The silence crashed into the room. I lay panting on the sofa, my body humming with aftershocks, sweat soaking through my shirt. I felt raw, exposed, and utterly ruined. The computer chimed. Upload complete. Kalen spun his chair around. He stood up and walked toward me, the mouse still in his hand. He tossed it onto the coffee table with a clatter. He loomed over me, loosening his tie. The air between us was thick, charged with the static of what had just happened. The work is done, he said. I looked up at him, my eyes wet. Are you going to kick me out? Kalen laughed. It was a dark, dry sound. Kick you out? Julian, you just made the most boring morning of my life incredibly entertaining. He leaned down, bracing his hands on either side of my head, trapping me. I always knew you were hiding something behind that anxious stutter. I just didn't realize you were a masochist. I'm not. Liar. He cut me off, his nose brushing mine. You loved every second of it. You loved that I was the one doing it. He reached down, his hand sliding up my thigh, moving toward the waistband of my trousers. My breath hitched. Whatever that device is, he whispered, his lips grazing my jawline. It's clumsy. Mechanical. Impersonal. His hand found the source of the vibration and deactivated it, pulling the small remote device free and discarding it on the floor. If you wanted my attention, Julian, Kalen growled, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, you didn't need a mouse. You just had to ask. He kissed me then, not tentatively, not gently. He kissed me with the same intensity he applied to everything else in his life, possessing, demanding, and absolute. It tasted like coffee and victory. As his weight settled over me, pressing me into the cushions, I realized the aloof roommate was gone. In his place was something much more dangerous and much more permanent. Next time, he murmured against my lips, We don't use toys. Understood. I nodded, breathless. Understood. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Kalen take absolute control, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you have stopped him, or would you have let him finish his work? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then.